Board meeting for November 17th, 2020 to order. My name is Kathy Barnard. This is a virtual and in-person meeting. We have members at home and possibly some members of the public watching virtually. To access the meeting, the login information is on the front page of the town website. And it is as follows, global.go-to-meeting.com/join/918242429. The first item is to do a roll call attendance. For the anyone at home, please indicate if you have anyone in the room with you. And so I'll start with Peter Goodwin.
Present. No one in the room.
Thank you, Peter. Susan Replier.
Here.
Von Dugan.
Here.
Mike Potter.
Here.
John Thurston.
Here.
Brad Harriman.
Here.
And Julie Jacobs is our alternate, and she's here. Mary Jane Shelton is taking the minutes, and also I want to acknowledge that our new planner, Tavis Austin, Tavis Austin is with us tonight for his first meeting. We had two public hearings scheduled. I'm going to change the order of the agenda just slightly, but there were two public hearings scheduled for this evening. One of them, Mary Ann Stockman in the town of Wolfeboro, that has been postponed. There will be no testimony taken regarding that application, and it's been renoticed and postponed until December 1st at 7 o'clock, and that will also be a virtual and in-person meeting, and the hearing will be held in the Great Hall. We'll go ahead and do the second public hearing item. Let me read that into the record. Scott Ducharme, 560 North Line Road. This is a reconfiguration of a non-conforming lots, tax map 67-1-1 and 67-1-2. The procedure for this application is the applicant will go through the application and discuss with us how it complies with our zoning ordinance and our regulations. Also check with the town planner to see if he has additional comments. Planning board members can ask questions. And then once we get through that procedure, we'll then determine if the application is complete. If it is, we'll accept the application as complete and open the public hearing for the application. Okay, so applicant, you're on. Good evening. Okay, and I'm not sure if you are on.
You want to take this one, right?
Yeah, yes, we can.
How about now?
That's good.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so my name is Randy Tatro. I'm with Norway Plains. I'm representing the applicant, the Ducharmes, tonight. And as Kathy, as the Madam Chair just said, this is a normally what we call a lot line adjustment, but in this case, it falls under the reconfiguration of non-conforming lots in Wolfeboro, because although this subdivision was originally approved by the Wolfeboro Planning Board forget the year. In, it says it in my application, 2004, yeah, 2004. The zoning changed since then, so the lot size requirement makes one of the lots non-conforming. It's basically had a conversation with Mr. Sullivan about that prior to the submitting of the application, so that's what we went under. So we've done a few of these before, and the regulation states that the planning board would make a decision on the reconfiguration to decide whether it was a betterment or at least as good as the original configuration. So in this case,
Yeah, you can probably just carry it with you.
okay. In this case, this is just the aerial view, which I think there was one included in your packets, correct? So that just gives you an idea of where we are. We're up by the town water plant, and at the end of North Line Road. The existing subdivision in 2004 left a pretty large parcel of land which the owners ended up building their house on. They have a state-approved septic system and well and so forth. The other two lots were left vacant and they're not developed. I provided you guys with a before and after view of this. So as you can see, even though I labeled them, before, the green lot was what was left with what the house was eventually built on. These two lots were also owned by the Duchamps. The subdivision originally included all of these. This was sold off. The Duchamps still own this parcel. And what they would like to do, as you can tell by the after that I sent you, is I think they contemplated in possibly selling their existing house and building on the remainder land, so that's in their leverage now, so they wanted to put the existing house on 5 acres. It meets all the soils requirements. Originally, the subdivision was done by Linden Design Associates, and there was a HIS map, a high-intensity soils map done on it, and, you know, had topography and wetlands. And so in this case, even though we're making this smaller, I've provided soil calculations with this. There's a remaining, out of the 5 acres, 3.4 acres of it is upland. And so that requirement would be just about an acre of land under the subdivision regulations, so we're well in excess of that. And like I say, it does have an existing state-approved septic that's on record, where we show approximate location. So it's generally a swap of about 9 acres, a little over 9 acres, that will be taken away from this original piece and added to the big piece that you see here. Interestingly enough, both of the reconfiguration, both of the form factor calculations go up. This one just barely, but the other one obviously better because it's more square. That's really it. The only other identifying feature is the existing town water line that runs through the property, the old original line. And there's an existing road that runs through there. This is the entrance to the water plant, just to orient yourself. So the building area on this lot would be similar to what was originally approved in a smaller footprint. This general area right in here, and there's test pits, and there is, again, soils information and so forth. The owners haven't picked out exactly, or I think made the decision that they were actually going to build here yet, but they're generally thinking about this area. We went round and around on how they wanted to recreate this. We wanted to give plenty of room for the existing septic to be able to go in and service it. And then if you've been up in there, it generally gives a better area for the yard and so forth. So again, the owners have looked at this, and this is where they'd like to put it. Meets the regulations in basics. Whether or not the board feels that that's a betterment or not, that'll be up to them. The other thing is I didn't ask for any waivers on this because we had topography, wetlands, soils. We already had everything that we sometimes ask for waivers to in this particular case. In this case, we have that information, so it's all on sheet 2 of the plan set. With that, I'll answer any questions the board may have.
Questions? Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, okay. Randy, quick question. Where the water line easement goes up through there, it appears that, you know, one edge of it might be along that property line that you're going to be eliminating. Will there still be some kind of delineation, at least on a plan, showing the width of the easement and stuff there where the water line goes up through?
That's a good question, Brad. And I went round and around with Dave on this. There's no specific width noted in any of the documents. And in this particular case, they know where the water line is. You know, there's the road that goes over it, but there's no, you know, easement document that prescribes a certain width on it.
Okay.
Till you get down by Pine Hill Cemetery, on the other side of Pine Hill Cemetery, then there's a more formal width to the water line easement. But up here, where it's the old original one, it was in the 1800s, we couldn't find any specific width to it other than it's there, and they have a right to have it and maintain it and so forth.
Yeah, there was a new one was put in the 1990s up through there. There's a pair of 12-inch lines went up through there. You know, new ones in at the time, because I know I was up there digging in them, putting them in, so
right.
That's why I know right where they are.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that was the first thing I looked, because I was curious that Don Bolts didn't show it on his plan previously in 2004, so I went to talk to Dave about it, and he said, well, we have an easement, but we don't have any specific width.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Ducharme has been, you know, in cohesive use with the town, and they get along pretty good as far as how to get in and out of there and making sure nothing's in the way and so forth. And we, and right now, you know, the question came up, if you do build on it, how far do you have to be from the line? Mm-hmm. You know, and because there's no specific width easement, you know, there was no exact setback determination made other than what normally would be for a septic or a structure or something like that, which would be like 75 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was what was discussed.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
along with the water line, do the new water lines go right along the same place, right along the same area as the old one? Brad, so there's 2 new ones that go in, are they in the same area?
Well, the only one that goes through here is right in this area right here.
And that's just the old one?
No,
I believe it's the old one.
Well, then where do the new ones
that's,
go?
no, the new one's right in the same spot the old one was in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I say,
yeah,
I'm probably replace the one from 1800 to a better height or something.
Okay.
Yep.
But the only place you can see on the ground exactly where that is the field. So again, that is the location. There's never a formal, you know, width easement document.
Go ahead, John.
so the house location and then that new area, could the septic be put over in that direction, away from the wetland area?
Yeah, this is the area that they're contemplating building on, and on the previous plan, this was approved by the state for like a 3-acre lot, John. So this area right here is the area they're talking to build it, quite a ways away from there, and there's plenty of space to build it in from any of the wetland setbacks and so forth. He's just made it a little bit bigger with this.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Can we go back to the water easement? Is it recorded in the deed that there is an easement for a water line?
In the most current deed, there's no reference to it. It just goes, if you go back in the original out sale for this area,
Yep.
it says there's an easement.
Is it plotted?
No, I have no plan or no width, Mike, like we usually do.
Yep.
All we know is physically where it sits on the ground.
Okay, we can physically see it. And in the deed, it is referred to as an easement for a water line, so it is recorded, so the future owners will know that there is an
No,
easement.
like I say, no, I don't believe it is. It's been there for so long that there's an old easement way back where the town put it in, but it didn't go forward into the most current deeds.
But it says approximate location of water line easement, so that leads you to
it's
believe that
prescriptive
there's an easement document.
Yeah,
It's a prescriptive easement,
Right.
understood.
yeah.
It's not monumented in any way.
It's not monumented as far as perimeter of it, if you will.
If I were to go out there, would I know where it was by looking at the ground?
Yep.
And how would I know that?
Well, there's an access road that runs right along the top of it. An access dirt road, tote road type road that runs right on the top of it. There is a couple of valves that we located to tell where the center of it is, Mike. And that's the extent of it.
Is it possible that the same path will be on that road and then the water line would be right next to it in the future? Is it possible that that would happen for Duchamp to get to his house?
Oh, yeah, as far as the water line itself, that gravel road is always open and being able to be used by the town.
So it's always going to be identified by that road and the edge of it.
When it appears on the plots that you submitted in this application, does it appear in the 2004 Planning Board subdivision application plots?
Yep,
It does, okay.
yep.
Okay.
All right, that's something.
And again, Mike, that's why when I looked at that, I was expecting to see a strip with an easement, a little more formalized, like it is further down. They went a ways, they went out onto Beach Pond Road, and then where they went cross-country after that, it was in the 1970s, maybe 1980s, so they had a more formal plan of it,
Yeah, I'm just concerned for any future owner of the property. But if it's on the plats for the subdivision and the reconfiguration of the subdivision as of tonight, that should be enough of an alert to any half-awake lawyer or deed researcher that there is an easement here, and then a future owner would be aware of that. Another question, just a point of reference, really. I understand your reason for not asking for waivers, because they're clearly outlined on the information that you've given us, but I do think it would be better had you done so, because it is a formal application, and there are waivers that could be requested. I don't think this board is going to ask for them, but it would have been better to at least have acknowledged the fact that they were important to the application and should be ticked off.
Sure. I felt like she provided all that information, Mike.
It provides the information,
okay.
but I don't have any formal application for a waiver.
Right, because I
Which is
felt
what
like
I'd like
I meant
to
the
have.
checklist items this time. Usually, I don't have either the wetland delineation of the whole site, or soils of the whole site, or topography of the whole site, so I asked for a waiver to that. In this case, I already had it, really, because I
From the
had Mr.
original,
Boltz's records here.
I understand.
Okay, Tavis, did you want to,
Well, the only thing I was going to suggest or add to Randy's presentation, I hope everyone got a copy of the additional notes I sent out yesterday that had some recommended conditions of approval for this application. And to that, after tonight's discussion, I might want to add or suggest adding condition number 7, which would be applicant to include the easement language for the water line, if only to reference the plat. So once this if the reconfiguration is permitted and that mile is put together and recorded, the plat itself doesn't transfer land and move the line. It's only when you record the deed subsequent to that. So adding a reference to the recorded mile would at least trigger the attorney who may not look at the plat, but may look at the deed and transfer.
Yeah, in this particular case, since there's not two different owners, it's the same owner, then the approval by the planning board, the signing and the recording of the plat's gonna pass the title to it. They don't need to do a deed to themselves. So if you want to suggest to show an easement or put easement language in the deed, that would have to be a deed that would be prepared additionally to the plan. Yeah.
Okay, other questions, comments? Tavis, did you have anything you wanted to add? No, all set?
Other than that, the staff's recommendation is complete application and the board should proceed to the public hearing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept this application as complete.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
Seconded.
Who seconded?
Vaughn.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Let me do a roll call vote to accept the application as complete. Peter Goodwin?
Yes.
Susan Replier?
Yes.
Von Dugan?
Yes.
Mike Hodder?
Yes.
John Thurston?
Yes.
Brad Harriman?
Yes.
And Kathy Barnard, I vote yes. Okay, so I'll now open the public hearing for this application. Is there any member of the public appearing virtually that wants to comment on this application? There's no one present here. Okay, I don't hear anyone coming forward, so basically there were no waivers requested. Mike has suggested that that probably was not the best idea, but it seems that this is a straightforward enough application that we can proceed. That there are no, both lots still conform to the RR zone with lot frontage, no setback issues, and the lot area conforms. So, any other concerns? Tavis, you had some conditions that you thought we should consider for this application. Do you want to just quickly go through those?
I can do that, yes.
Okay, thanks.
The first one is if you motion to approve, recommended condition number 1, following plans as amended by the planning board of approval are incorporated into the approval lot line adjustment to reconfigure map 6711 and 6712, Northland Road, Wolfeboro. This is basically sheet 2 for those following along at home. The applicant shall submit a Mylar plan for recording at Carroll County Registry of Deeds. Number 3, the applicant should be responsible for payment of all recording fees. Number 4, all the documentation submitted in the application package by the applicant and the requirements imposed by other agencies as part of this approval, unless otherwise updated, revised, clarified in some manner, or superseded in full or in part. In the case of conflicting information between documents, most recent documentation and this notice herein shall generally be determined. Number 5, the applicant should be responsible for monumentation and updated plans, including original stamps and signatures from licensed land surveyor and other applicable licensed professionals. Number 6, if granted, the applicant shall add a note to the final plan indicating approval subdivision regulation waivers is applicable. In this case, they are not. I wasn't sure where that discussion was going to go this evening. That's why I wrote that down.
Okay.
And then there's a question as to whether or not to request a deed memorializing the easement. That one, I don't know how it would be tracked unless it was done at this time. I don't know how we're ever going to track it with the Charm ourselves to make sure that condition is met.
Okay.
But, you know, to my looking at it, as long as it is on all the plats, both in 2004 and was done tonight, I think there's evidence of it that would carry forward at that time. That's all I have.
Yeah, if you bear with me a second, I can show you the copy of the original subdivision that kind of shows it. There's really no description of whether it's a prescriptive easement or not. I avoided putting that on mine just in case, because I didn't want to make that assertion as a survey, just as a surveyor. I know that Scott Ducharme and Dave have talked a lot about it, so I'm sure they can work that out if they want to do a supplemental document, or we want to put a little stronger text on the plan that says prescriptive easement, waterline, town of Wolfeboro, something a little better than what I got, that certainly can be added.
Well, it's a self-evident as prescriptive, so I don't think we need to specify that. I'm satisfied that if it appears on the plats for both iterations of this subdivision, you'd have to be asleep not to notice that. So I don't think anything further, I don't know, maybe the Tavis wants to come up with wording for condition 6 that it elaborates on the need for an indication of an easement, but I don't think that would necessarily be necessary, given what we've seen tonight.
Okay, Randy, did you have anything else you wanted to add before I close the public hearing?
The only other thing I wanted to add is the last thing that to do is monument the new lot corners, and that's what we have left as far as Norway Plains is concerned. Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to close the public hearing. All right, okay, board members, we've heard the testimony. Tavis has suggested some conditions. It appears that we probably don't need condition 6, which talks about the waivers, and the proposed condition 7 about the water line easement. Is everyone satisfied that there's ample evidence on the documents about that water line easement? Or how do you want to proceed with that, item?
It's a municipal water line, and it's never going to be overridden. That's the fact.
Okay. Okay, so,
And it is a prescriptive easement, and if it does get lost in the transfers, one day the town is going to show up with a backhoe to do some work, and the issue is going to arise, and all of a sudden the landowner is going to realize it is. So the town will not be out due to any oversight. I don't think we need anything further than that.
Dave's got a few prescriptive easements out there.
I'm sorry?
I said, Dave's got a few prescriptive easements out there.
I know, there's a bunch of them, I understand.
okay, so are people satisfied with the application with 5 conditions that have been indicated? If so, I'd entertain a motion to approve this application.
I move that the board approve case number, we don't have a case number.
No, the case numbers aren't here, but
Okay, I move that we approve the lot line adjustment, subdivision reconfiguration, Scott Ducharme property, 560 North Line Road, tax map lot number 67001-001 and 67001-002, with 5 conditions as outlined by the planner.
okay, thank you.
Seconded.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, motion has been made and seconded, and John just pointed out that the application number is 2020-28.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, John.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Do a roll call vote on this application. Peter Goodwin?
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. Susan Replier?
Yes.
Von Dugan?
Yes.
Mike Hodder?
Yes.
John Thurston?
Yes.
Brad Harriman?
Yes.
And Kathy Barnard. I vote in favor of the application. Randy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
And see you December 1st.
Yes.
Little interesting thing, when we put in that water line up through there, we came across some of the old water pipe from back in the 1800s. It was actually hollowed out log, there were wooden pipes down through there. and they gave it to the town. They have it on display somewhere.
Yeah, they're in the,
Inside the building, we saw it.
they're in the building, yeah.
we
yeah,
did
I've
see
seen
It's
those.
pretty neat, dig it out of the ground and just see it like,
So that's where they came from,
yep.
from up there, okay.
And South Main Street.
Kathy, do you
And
need
South
me to
Main
stick around?
South Main Street where the General Wolf was.
For the town application, you mean?
Yeah,
No, because I just...
you already postponed it?
We continued that one until December 1st.
Thank you.
But we will look forward to seeing you then. Okay. All right, moving right along here, the next item on the agenda, and as I said, I sort of moved things around a little without getting your permission. I'm sorry to be so free and easy, but the next item is the lot merger with Douglas and Joanne Forbes at 425 and 421 North Wakefield Road. This is one developed lot, and these lots are in the RR zone also. So one developed lot and one lot that is undeveloped, but it does have sort of a dilapidated structure on it. So this would simply bring the lots more into conformance with the lot area and the frontage requirements. Does anyone have any issues with this?
I think the question was whether or not we were going to leave the dilapidated shed, and I had to reflect back. Is that the case still, or they agreed to take the shed down?
No, they haven't commented on the shed at all, but I was concerned about it because I want to make sure that it's, that everyone understands it cannot be a dwelling unit.
Well, didn't we, was it called, Tavis has something to offer here. Does it have an accessory use to something? That's how it was described, an accessory shed. So
Right.
I was wondering what the accessory use to was.
Right, because it's the only thing on the lot. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may, the structure is identified on the tax card in such a way that sounds like it used to be a dwelling.
A what?
It used to be a dwelling.
Okay.
So the way I recall reading it was a cabin without windows, doors, or interior partition walls. And though it's not part of the application, my understanding in speaking with Terry earlier today was that the intended use of that building, or a portion of it, was going to be an accessory use to the dwelling on the other lot. So it would be accessory to the dwelling that's already there. So
When the
I
lots are
I don't necessarily see a need to require it to be raised, but I would support a condition if the board was so inclined to say, obviously, you can't have two dwellings on the same property. But that stands with or without a condition.
Yeah, so that's where we are as far as consistency on our previous applications. That's where I'm going to come down. If we've kept a track record of not asking them to do it, or we've asked them to do it, and because I don't want to disenfranchise anybody else that we've had the same application with that we've denied because they've had to tear down the building, or they've decided not to tear down the building. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, we had a similar case on Pleasant Valley Road.
That's correct.
So I wish the applicants were here so I could ask them, what are your intentions for this, quote, empty shell, unquote, and how would you feel if we asked you to tear it down and make us feel comfortable that it was never going to be turned into another dwelling? I would feel kind of uncomfortable putting a condition in for approval that they raise it when they're not here to speak to that condition.
Right.
Well, by the same token, the regulations already prevent the existence of two dwellings. So the fact that there is a dwelling on the other lot and it's then merged, they couldn't obtain building permits to put it there. I don't think there's enough of the structure there to claim that it is still a dwelling.
I understand, Tavis, but we're dealing with people's private property here, and I would not want to stand on the regulation and say, this has to get torn down because I'm concerned it could turn into a dwelling, which would be illegal perhaps, or I would just like to have them have a say. So I'd be happy to recommend that we hold this over.
Well, couldn't we just make a recommendation or one of the stipulations and just say only one dwelling unit will be allowed on this combined lot? Period. Per our zoning ordinance.
Right, that's what I was thinking also, that we either put a condition that it cannot be a dwelling and it can only be an accessory use.
That would work. Yeah, thanks.
Or an accessory structure.
That would get around my qualms.
Yeah.
So what's it do to our previous application on Pleasant Valley Road, though?
Well, that one had to do with the number of accessory.
Yeah, there were multiple.
Okay,
There were
okay,
multiple.
okay.
So that one is
All right.
slightly different.
All right.
Okay, so, would everybody be comfortable moving ahead with this then? Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the merger with a condition that the dilapidated structure cannot be used as a dwelling.
Is
and must
it
be
a hazard?
accessory.
Is it a hazard? Or is it just, is it a hazard at all?
My disclaimer would be I have not been on it or near it or otherwise. I would think in order for it to be a hazard, someone would need to be trespassing. I don't think it's an inherent hazard to someone that owns the property.
Okay.
I mean, it's it's not on Main Street where it's going to fall into the street.
Okay.
I think instead of worrying about that building, I would rather see language that said the condition is only one dwelling unit per lot,
Okay,
so that they could move it around and say, we already
Yeah.
had one and it's now over here.
That's a good idea.
okay. All right, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I move that one of the conditions, I imagine there are others, is that there will be only one dwelling unit on this lot per the Town of Wolfeboro zoning ordinance.
And that we approve the lot merger
Yes.
of 421 and 425 North Wakefield, right?
Yes, here,
Okay.
here.
Okay, all right. Okay, the motion has been made. Somebody want to second the motion?
Second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. I'll do a roll call vote. Peter Goodwin?
Yes.
Okay, Susan Replier?
Yes.
Von Dugan?
Yes.
Mike Hodder?
Yes.
John Thurston?
Yes.
Brad Harriman?
Yes.
And Kathy Barnard, I vote yes. Okay, folks, that's good. Let's see, and now we have a return of the bond for the Wolfeboro Car Wash. And there was one remaining requirement, and I think it was landscaping?
On this one, they're all done, and here's the memo from Matt Sullivan.
Okay,
Oh,
all right. Okay,
Spit over your left shoulder 3 times.
My understanding is that the board requested the letter be prepared as now presented to the chairman for signature and then release the funds. So that project is complete.
okay, thank you. All right, so this project has been around for quite some time, and it's been determined that all of the conditions have been satisfied. So would somebody be willing to make a motion to release the financial security for the Wolfeboro Car Wash? Tax map 218-66, case 201506.
so moved.
Thank you. Motion has been made, and somebody want to second the motion?
Second.
Oh, okay, thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. I'll do another roll call vote. Peter Goodwin?
Yes.
Susan Replier?
Yes.
Von Dugan?
Yes.
Mike Hodder?
Yes.
John Thurston,
Yes?
Brad Harriman,
Yes.
and Kathy Barnard. I vote in favor of release of the bond. Okay, we've been through the public hearing items. The next item is public comment. Is there any member of the public, either, there's no one present here in the Great Hall, but is there anyone virtually that wanted to make a statement or make comments to the planning board this evening? Okay, I don't hear anyone coming forward. So let me move on. Let's go and talk about the planning board meeting schedule first. We need to vote on this item. This is for 2021. Everybody comfortable with all of these dates?
Are these all first and third?
Yes.
Except for the December dates, those are Thursdays.
December? That's not the first.
That's the December 2 is a Thursday, as I remember, from my calendar. So
No,
it's
but this
looking
is for
the wrong year.
2021.
Yep.
Okay.
Don's got a calendar.
Okay, all right, John, you're right on the details tonight here.
When, the 1st is December 1st is a Tuesday, and the 3rd is the 15th.
For 2021? Next year?
No, this is upcoming for the next month.
No.
No, but this is a schedule for...
Oh, 2021, okay.
Yeah.
The first Tuesday in December 2021 is the 7th. So it'll be 7 and 21.
Oh,
Tuesdays.
okay, well, this
Mike
is...
is correct, the 2 and 16 being Thursdays.
So the correct dates in December are what?
7 and 21.
Okay, good catch. Anybody catch any others? All right,
As far as December this month,
yeah,
that's not on there.
right.
And those are the regular days, right? Is that what we're...
Yeah, yes. Okay, any other concerns? Would somebody be willing to make a motion to this planning board meeting schedule as amended?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Motion has been made, and I think I heard a second. Roll call vote. Peter Goodwin,
Yes.
Susan Replier,
Yes.
Von Dugan,
Yes.
Mike Hodder,
Yes.
John Thurston,
Yes.
Brad Harriman,
Yes.
and Kathy Barnard. I vote yes. Okay, let's, the next item are the minutes, and then we have a couple more items, but why don't we go ahead and do the minutes. The first set of minutes is the 6th of October.
I don't think I was here.
Anyone have any issues with those minutes?
Yes, page 5.
Okay, hang on just a sec,
Take
please. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Fourth paragraph down from the top that begins Kathy Barnard expressed.
Okay,
I'd like to move that concern into our work program in some fashion, so that we and the planner look at the boathouse ordinance concerning survey plan requirements for boathouses, which currently don't seem to exist, at least with respect to special use permits. You'll see in the second paragraph on that page, the previous planner stated his opinion that plans were not required, but we ran into a problem with that application where we all felt that we would have liked to have seen plans, particularly with regard to overhangs and the configuration of the boathouse. And Kathy rightly expressed that the board should review the boathouse ordinance And I'd like to get that, rather than have it overlooked, get it onto our work program in some fashion, so we can at least look at, it
Yeah.
shouldn't take long.
No,
And if a revision is required, that shouldn't take much writing either.
right, okay. Okay, so you simply, your
Referring off to
amendment is
the
just a
work plan,
change.
yeah.
Okay, anything else on the October 6th minutes? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the October 6th, 2020 minutes with the one correction noted.
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Seconded.
And seconded. Roll call vote. Peter Goodwin,
Yes.
Susan Replier,
Yes.
Von Dugan,
Yes.
Mike Hodder,
Yes.
John Thurston,
Abstain.
and Brad Harriman,
Yes.
and Kathy Barnard. I vote in favor. Okay, thank you. And then the next set of minutes are October 20th. I just had one change. The first complete paragraph at the top of page 7 at the end, it says the planning board has no involvement in the process and no authority to request an individual to sign and I think there was, I think probably
Intent to
saying
cut.
any document.
You could do that too.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I was just going to add at the end of that sentence, to sign any document. I believe that's what we're talking about. Any other corrections, amendments? Does somebody want to make a motion to approve this set of minutes as amended?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote. Peter Goodwin,
Yes.
Susan Replier,
Yes.
Von Dugan,
Abstain.
Mike Hodder,
Yes.
John Thurston,
Yes.
Brad Harriman,
I'll abstain also.
okay, and Kathy Barnard. I vote in favor. Okay, good job, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
They're very easy to read minutes, so I appreciate that, so thanks.
Julie was an alternate on that.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, but she's not sitting
No,
tonight.
but she did on that. on
No,
that.
no, I know, but
Oh,
she's
okay.
not sitting.
Oh,
here
okay, yeah,
as
yeah,
a-
I got it.
Okay. Okay, all right, the next item, I don't know how frequently all of you look at your emails, but I did send you one this afternoon, and that was a greetings email from Paul Zimmerman. Everybody, I don't know if you had a chance to look at that, and I wasn't,
Well, you
I
did
just
say it
wanted
was
to
early, I
acknowledge
think.
that I received it, and basically I sent back to him and said that I wasn't sure that everybody was going to have a chance to look at this, and that I would put it on a future agenda for the discussion.
Fine idea.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes,
We, So if you take a look at this that I sent to you, and then we can put it on agenda, maybe the second agenda in December, to have
And
us.
what will that consist of? What are we gonna, what's gonna happen with that agenda item?
Okay, well, we need to address his request, or at least talk about it.
To get public input? Are we gonna
Well,
get
that's
public
what we had already decided to do.
We
And-
did.
input? We do that at the same time, or how will
Well,
it work?
yeah, previously, when we had talked about this, we had said that we didn't feel as if we had time to get anything prepared this year, but once we got through the warrant articles, we would then have a public input session at the beginning of the year. And so we had decided that, and I thought that I had passed that information on to Mr. Zimmerman, so.
So let's read this through a little bit.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
so he came to us we had a discussion, we said what we were gonna do. He's kindly given us some more literature to
Right.
mill through, and I think that's what his meaning is. We should get something going here, so because basically he's gonna keep probing us with information unless we try to get something going on here. I mean, that's, to me, that's what he's trying to do.
Fine. He already knows what we intended to do, which was, as Kathy described, to have a public information session on the usefulness and acceptance by the town of a drive-through restaurant.
So
So
Susan's,
I'd be very happy to get all the data and propaganda he wants to send our way prior to that, because it'll all be helpful.
Right.
But I don't think this board should commit themselves to moving faster than they want to, just because somebody else wants to move quickly.
no, I don't think it's disingenuous to say that he's been trying to force us, because he's taken the time to send us some information with pictures, just like anybody else would, and I think he's made ample request. I think maybe we should try to get a date where we can get the people together.
Okay, and that's what I thought we could decide in December.
Okay?
And, you know, if we could schedule it in January, that would be great, but then people get nervous that people can't get out. But now that we have these virtual meetings, that's not an issue.
It
so-
isn't, no.
Right, so that
may-
was kind of what I had,
Okay.
was thinking. So-
All right, thank you. I just wanted to catch up on what our plan was there.
I
Okay.
have a question. Is there any significance to the juxtaposition of the two documents which were sent? One associated with a particular drive-through organization, and the other is his letter.
I was interested also, Peter.
What was the question?
Yeah, well,
Is there significance to the juxtaposition of those two documents?
We have a cover letter from Mr. Z, which accompanies two illustrations of a particular chain of drive-through restaurants.
I was looking more at the drive-through aspect and not the name. I was looking at the building and the drive-through aspect.
Yes, but there was two pieces of literature with the brand name on it. That kind of swayed me a little bit farther.
Okay,
It may simply be coincidental.
I didn't see the other one, I just looked at the big one.
Yeah, I think I agree with John. I kind of interpret it as being more of a generalized, showing the fact that he's talking about drive-through, you know, facilities there, not necessarily the actual brand that was depicted in the pictures. That's the way I took it.
I have to say, I read Mr. Zimmerman's letter, and he makes very good points. You know, and there are points that I made at the board hearing, the last time we discussed this, that there are a significant percentage of people in town who might feel they would benefit from a drive-through restaurant in town for a number of different reasons. We said to Mr. Zimmerman when he was here that we would be looking into this. What more can we do?
Public input.
Yeah,
Oh,
eventually,
well,
sure.
we can do what you suggested, Mike, and send them a letter, say, we'd like you to get everything out here, we're gonna schedule a time and date on this particular day, and one of our members suggested to have all the information in front of them.
yeah, okay, and that's what I thought. Why don't we talk about it again in December, and then we'll send him in something like that. Of
That sounds like a plan.
additional information. But I don't want to prolong this one too much, but have we talked about sending this to EDC, the Economic Development Committee?
Well, I presume when we have a public hearing, anyone can come.
Okay, well, that's true.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't reached out to EDC on this issue at all, no.
We could put it in the paper, you know?
Well, when the time comes, yeah, do we want to clue EDC in earlier than that? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm just sort of wondering.
I'd like to give the gentleman a fair presentation first before he gets slaughtered and cut into pieces, too.
Well, I don't expect the
Oh, I
EDC to do
don't,
that.
Okay.
I don't think the EDC is like it.
No, I just want to have the guy have a fair platform, and then people get their input. But I mean, he's working with the planning board at this point, so we should follow through on that process before we engage anybody else on the outside, the way I think about it.
Well, the EDC is a town committee, and they're interested in bringing new businesses,
Okay.
especially kind of year-round businesses into town, so
Okay.
that's why I thought of it.
Yes, but
Go ahead,
Kathy, he
go ahead,
actually
Tavis.
could have gone himself.
Wait just a minute. Go ahead, Tavis.
I was just going to say, the last EDC meeting, which I believe was scheduled for last week, has been postponed to next week. A meeting with the chair of the EDC tomorrow to go over where they've been working on their priorities from the master plan to come up, of the things in the master plan, whether they're, A-list items, if you will, for moving forward into 2021. One of the ways, and I just want to get the sense from the planning board, I can plant the seed that this discussion occurred and then say I intend to reach out when the planning board is ready to commit to a public outreach, and it would invite the EDC to use that collective public mustering power, if you will, in addition to just putting it in the paper.
I think that's premature.
Okay.
I agree.
I would suggest
But
it's
that's an
premature.
option I'm willing to
Because
go down.
we're just talking about,
Right.
Okay.
And I think that, the minute that somebody hears the planning board is discussing an issue, all of a sudden, it's an issue. The planning board's discussing. Let's wait until it becomes one of them.
Let's wait until you're ready to discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, back to my original, let's put it on the agenda in December, figure out a game plan, and then go charging forward.
Step at a
Okay?
time.
Is that all right? with
Then we
everyone?
can spread our wings after that, Kathy.
Okay, and Julie, I cut you off, but go ahead.
It's okay, I was just saying that if Paul had wanted to involve the EDC, he very well could have sent letters to the EDC rather than just the planning board, since he has all of his contacts there too.
Yeah.
I think he's doing it specifically with just this board for a reason,
Yep.
knowing, and does
Okay, but
anybody know, just off the top of their heads, when the last time was we voted on the drive-through restaurant thing? Wasn't it just last year?
Yeah, the surveys all point to the fact that the town is not in favor. I forget the percentage, and I brought that up last time. So I don't know if we can put a survey question out there in the future in some form, maybe on a town warrant article list or something. Just, are you in favor of the yea or nay next time there's a vote?
Something I'd offer for the board to think about. Mr. Zimmerman's, I believe it was my very first day, walked in to introduce himself and this issue to me. And I was first a bit astounded. I hadn't delved into the code at all, and thinking about Wolfeboro, there are any number of drive-throughs in town. And he said, yes, but they don't allow restaurants. So at first, when it was introducing the idea of drive-through restaurant, I thought, well, that's a very sound planning principle not to allow drive-throughs, but then you see any number of pharmacies, banks, etc. So I'm trying to get a sense of what the issue is with drive-through food. If it's, franchise architecture, if it's franchise isms that is the issue. My understanding of it is Dunkin' Donuts came in and then the door slammed shut because something, and I'm trying to put my finger on what that is. So the real context for me is, whether it's a drive-through for food or a drive-through for food that's only some pro rata share of the business operation, as long as they can demonstrate that they're only 5% drive-through versus 50-50, maybe that's a threshold. But I really would like to get a sense, and I don't know if it will come in an outreach form or not, but what is the town's opinion of drive-through food? And don't know the players enough, I mean, some of you I have not even seen until tonight. Is it anti-Mr. Zimmerman?
No.
Or is it anti-Mr., I mean, publicly, I don't mean the board, but something is there that is just stuck.
Premature. We're having a discussion now, aren't we?
No, yeah, right.
Well, no, I'm just, as you think about the discussion to go into at the second meeting
Right.
in December, the thought would be, you know, what are we looking for? So I'm asking the board, as you think about architect, you know, put the architecture together for this forum, what is it ostensibly you may be asking for regulations to regulate?
Yeah.
Or not?
Okay, I'll make sure that we get that background.
But maybe you should have a
information
little
in December.
understanding on where we are as a board. The reason that Mr. Zimmerman has a platform is because we had a vote last year, and on that vote, we, as a board, make a recommendation. And as a committee, when he gave his presentation, he said that when the form goes out and people see it's not favored by the board, they make a determination based on that. We, as representatives for the people, are in a bit of a position because a lot of them don't want it, and then some of them do want it. So we, as a board, had a discussion, and we are going to give them the platform, but we're looking to make a decline on a recommendation that's a discussion, and so that will give people the free thought to make a decision themselves rather than being persuaded because it was a planning board recommendation.
Okay, so we will try to have, well, we will have all that when we...
On the agenda.
Oh, okay, and can you use the mic just so Peter and the people listening in can hear?
I'm happy to. I just noticed that the closer I got, the more the feedback sound came, so I...
Yeah, no, that's okay. Okay, then the other item, Tavis and I have had a couple of get-togethers, and I thought it would be good if we could hear from Tavis as to sort of his thoughts thus far. I think he'd like to make some changes, modifications, as anyone new coming into a position like this would want to do. My suggestion to him was that it would be good for any changes to kind of have a discussion with the planning board first, get feedback, and then move forward. So why don't you just sort of, give us an idea of, first of all, things you run up against thus far, obstacles. I'm sure there have been plenty of those, and
Well, it's not obstacles so much as just learning a whole way, a completely different way of doing exactly the same thing I've been doing for the last 5 years.
I'm sorry, where are you from again?
I was in Stratham for the last 4 years
Stratton,
and 10
Vermont?
months.
Yeah.
What?
Stratham. Stratham.
Yeah.
Got it.
yeah, these folks really, I mean, Mike and I were in on the interviews, but these folks really don't know much about your background, so, why don't you just...
If you want to bear with me, I can go through a 6-minute life history or less.
Well, just give them a general idea.
I started out in rural upstate New York where there were more cows than people. And at that particular time in the early 90s, there was a large development group that came in and hit the town. And the general populace said, where did they come from? Why didn't we know? Why weren't we given a chance to speak to this or about this or what have you? Long story short, because Mike gave me a whole minute, that turned into my interest in what became land use planning. I went to school in Northern California. I have a background in natural resources planning. My goal had always been to come back to the Northeast. One of the reasons I consider myself very lucky to be in Wolfeboro now is Cooperstown, New York is very similar to Wolfeboro. Commercial strip down Main Street, giant lake just off Main Street. Okay, 3 lakes, all right, you have more lakes. But there are so many things that are similar that I feel very at home here, even though I really only discovered it about 2 years ago and then had the opportunity to come up to work here. I believe I have a very strong, grounding in RSAs and how New Hampshire works, and I'm very sensitive when I hear, Mike say, well, it's private property and we're not going to tell them what they can or can't do, but we're going to keep the playing field even, and things of that nature. So I need to hear from you as much as I'm, what do you need from me? What would you like me to do more of? What would you like me to do less of? Certain things Kathy was referring to, I noticed that the public hearing notice that goes in the paper for the past, well, since COVID, I assume, has been a very long public notice. So I didn't think anything of it to truncate that. The way that happened caused some ripples. One of the difficulties and things to overcome is I didn't realize how many people were touching agendas and touching notices in between setting them and having them either go online or to the paper or get to you. I'm used to that being me. So the fact that the discussion morphed so many times is what led to some of the confusion. So what I'm going to do now is go back to what you are used to seeing until we have a discussion about making changes. My goal wasn't to upset the apple cart. It was really to streamline things and make it more user-friendly. But apparently that didn't help. Things I've noticed tonight, it was very helpful for me to be at this meeting, see how the board processes applications, how the dialogue goes. One of the recommendations I would suggest that was new to me was providing the applicant a chance to speak, providing the applicant for a chance to introduce the project prior to the board accepting the application as complete. I had always been trained in New Hampshire that that wasn't to occur because anything the applicant says is functionally adding to the record potentially information that wasn't available to the public prior to the meeting. I think you could go either way on that. That was just a nuance to me that I picked up on tonight. One of the other things, and this isn't a criticism of the minutes, but one of the things I found helpful in the past is to actually turn on the line numbering in the minutes. So it's just a simple matter of turning on the line number so that you know in the minutes, instead of third complete paragraph, page 5, third sentence, you can just say first sentence in line 313. I don't know if you want to see it. It might be too much busy work, something I found helpful in the past. Other than that, I'm just trying to, learn what you're used to, and then I'm not going to make any, course corrections until we have a discussion on it. For example, you'll notice in the initial staff reviews I put out, there were no recommended conditions. As I looked at them, there was no necessarily any need for conditions because the conditions essentially said follow the regulations. But after hearing you go through it tonight, I can understand why you like to have them as conditions other than relying upon the regulations to be there as a base. So moving forward, I'll put standard regulations or standard conditions in there as suggestions. Anything else I can do based on what you've seen so far, or do you want to get into some more fun meetings first?
Yeah, let me just, one of the things that I've been noticing is that you have been out in the field, you've been going out with Steve, I don't know how often, but we've talked about things that you've seen, so.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things when we were interviewing the candidates that struck me as far as Tavis was concerned was his background in natural resources. And, in this town, with all the development going on, especially around the shorefront and in the watershed areas, I think that it's valuable to have Steve, who is the new codes officer, who's very knowledgeable about the codes, but also that Tavis is checking out some of these properties because we put all these conditions on. And even Matt has said to us in the past that he never had an opportunity to go out to make sure that those conditions were followed. So I think that by having canvas already out there, that's a good sign. And I've already told the Wolfeboro Water Subcommittee that we've got to talk with them because they, of course, are very interested in development going on in the watershed areas, so.
Well, in one of our conversations, Kathy shared that it was Matt's belief that shoreland permits weren't really being inspected.
Yes, that's what I was referring
And
to, right.
I would say within the first 6 applications, I went to probably 5 of the 6 sites with Steve. One, it was nice to see the parts of Wolfeboro where you don't know about, you know, the dead ends and the, you know, all the little nooks and crannies that you don't learn until you've been here a long time, or go out with the code officer and see all these areas. We actually came across a shoreland permit, and I won't go into address or other things, but there were trees that were cut that weren't slated to be cut at the shoreland permit application. There were trees shown on the shoreland permit application that probably haven't existed in, well, at least on the records we had available within the last 20 years. So that really plays with your grids and your trees and your sapling counts and all of those things. The engineer was embarrassed, markedly embarrassed, that someone in his firm had just copied layers from previous work on this project, and nobody went back and said, oh, well, that hardwood hasn't been there in a long time, has it? Sorry. And it was also encouraging for me. I didn't tell Steve what I was going along with him for in part, but I also wanted to know what he was looking for. Some of them were brand new sites. It blows me away. Perhaps I'm just a simpleton, but to know that somebody just purchased a property for 1.2 million so they could tear it down, that's a problem I will never have. But in so doing, you know, I got to see that, you know, the very initial phases of a project, and then there was one where the house was their Great Hall was approximately 90% done. And Steve said, wait a minute, I told you last week that silt fence needed to be up and it's still not up. Do you want to stop today, or are we going to fix the silt fence? Without prompting. I don't know if that's because his boss was with him or because, you know, but it was encouraging to see. It's nice to have a codes officer who's looking beyond nailing schedules and sheetrock.
Yes.
So I think the board should be appreciative of that.
And I hope you reinforce that with Steve, because that is very important.
Right.
Well, under the circumstances, you have to reinforce it with the builders, because the builders have been feeling like they didn't have anybody looking over their shoulder, so that now they're getting a little education and the word will get around that somebody's watching.
Right.
A couple of suggestions, if I may.
Go ahead.
Since we're running virtually with no people here, it would be good if you use a microphone all the time whenever you're speaking, because if you're speaking in the room, I know from experience watching online, you can't hear.
Okay.
Unless you're talking into a microphone. That would be helpful.
Right, and it would be better if you sat closer.
Yeah, I was told that Matt always sat over there.
Well,
But I can sit over here. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, you
camera's
can
up
sit
there.
wherever you like.
You can see what's on camera. So
Sure.
you just want to be on camera.
Okay.
Wherever you want to sit, as long as you're on camera. You're going to be here at every meeting?
That's my plan, yes.
All right, good. Will you be preparing planner reviews? The board has gotten very comfortable and used to having planners prepare formal planner reviews of applications, outlining the sorts of things that we struggled with a little bit tonight, particularly waivers. In Brandy's case, didn't really need to ask for waivers because they'd been granted in the first time around, and he indicated on the plat what they had already been, and he showed where there was an improvement, perhaps in the form factor, but a little bit more hand-holding, I think, would be helpful for the board.
Sure.
And as much detail as you can, particularly concerning zoning, setbacks, the things that Kathy brought up during her rehearsal for the folks at home would be good to have in the documentation too, because it'll all become part of the packet. It'll accompany the application, and in the future, it can be looked at.
It can be what?
It can be looked at in the future.
Sure.
So it won't have to be guessed.
Just to add to that, while we're on that topic, one of the conversations I had with Kathy yesterday, my goal is to get you that planner review and the application materials prior to the Friday, prior to a meeting.
Yeah, the earlier the better, obviously, because, you know, we all have lives, and this is only part of them.
Correct. My original upbringing in this was if you could not get them in the mail to be in planning board members' hands 7 days before a meeting, you had best deliver them on your way home.
Well, we won't ask you to try that tomorrow.
Well,
That's okay,
and Kathy said, well, that seems almost a bit aggressive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I said, well, the application is due, you know, ostensibly 21 days before. It has to be in the paper so many days before,
That will be a learning curve too for some people.
which means the record should be available to the public on or about the same day it's in the paper or the notice is published.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
So the review should be there because that's part of the package.
That's correct.
The sooner
So-
we can get the information, the better.
That-
It is-
Correct.
it's
So
spot on.
that is my goal, yes. And I will accept constructive criticism throughout, like, okay, you had more detail on this one, but if you'd flushed out this, and even if that comes prior to a meeting, I can bring that information so that you have it in your hands at the meeting.
Not wanting to tie you down in any way because you're new and you want to do things in the way you feel most comfortable, but you might want to look at anything that Matt had prepared as a template for some suggestions, particularly the sequence of information presented to the planning board.
Well, that's interesting because the ones I put together are the last merger and reconfiguration that Matt had submitted. And then you noticed in your motion that there weren't case numbers on it. And I went, okay, well, I'll add case numbers next time. But this, I literally went into Matt Sullivan's files in the last merger. I mean, I tried to follow the template.
Yeah,
but
no,
that-
it's very helpful, and I appreciate the imagery also
Okay.
in the review. It's helpful, and perhaps I'm still considering myself new, but like a before and after would also be helpful in the review.
Okay.
For me. But
Yeah,
this,
because
I
that
find it
one was
helpful with the
difficult to figure
imagery.
out. You couldn't see it.
Okay.
And just one other thing, there's a new RSA which allows the planner and the board to post notices
Correct.
of upcoming hearings electronically on the town website, not necessarily in the newspaper in print,
Correct.
which would save us money.
Yes.
A lot
and
of
would
money.
and a lot of money, and would make it a lot easier to get notice of.
So, and one of the things I didn't do, that was one of the suggestions I was going to make. I was going to go through the regulations just to make sure it didn't say it has, because the statute allows it, but it may be that Wolfeboro regulations still require newspaper of general circulation.
You're right, you mentioned that. They do. Our rules of procedure say newspaper.
Right,
Yeah.
so if we change the rules and procedure, then we can just go
Right.
full electronic.
Yeah, we just,
Right.
I think
Yeah,
we'll just
okay.
change the rules of procedure so
All
we can
right,
go
where's my
forward.
little list?
Save some money.
Boathouse and rules of procedure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that gives you a lot more flexibility. It
Sure.
will save us a bunch of money.
And that was going to be one of my other suggestions. You know, if there's only one public hearing, and the reason for shortening is when you send an 8.5 by 11 to the newspaper, that generally runs in the $240, $250 public hearing notice. You have a $50 application coming in. Now, that's not necessarily the planning board's problem, but the selectmen could look at it and say, we're paying $5,000 a year and we're only bringing in $200 in revenue. This is not genuine to the time that's going into this. So it's either shorten the notice or only schedule public hearing notices when we've got enough to pay for the notice, or go electronic and not worry about it anymore.
As far as the selectmen are concerned, this regulation applies to all board meetings, including yours, ZBA, BudCom, Concom, and us. If we all went full electronic, which we are now allowed to do, there's a chunk of money that the town could save in spending in Granite State in advertising.
Yeah, but Mike, a lot of people still don't know to just go to the website. They read the paper,
Oh, agreed,
you know, so.
agreed.
But, I mean, the little one, you know, the one paragraph deal say, hey, there's a thing going on, go look at the website is usually enough.
We can always throw in an article into the paper, we're going to be meeting at such and such a time to deal with such and such an issue, and have that as a news and not have to pay for it. I'm just suggesting that it gives us flexibility and timing, and it can save this board money.
Well, correct, and to that end, if it simply said, Town of Wolfeboro Planning Board public hearings on the following, and then it was a list of bullet points, 7 o'clock date, that satisfies the notice requirement, and then you have the link, and if they want to read more, they can go online and find it, or they can come see us.
Both ways.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, if you think about it, some of the previous or more recent, I'll say pre-T notices that were in the paper, it's not only the go-to-meeting link, but how to do it once you get there. Putting that in the notice, you just start, ringing the cash register to put that in the paper. Maybe it's helpful, but it's definitely far beyond what the statute requires for a notice.
I can tell you what I look for when I do this. I basically look and see what town it is, what board it is, and then I check out the name of the property.
Correct.
I know a lot of other people are doing that. It's like, oh, that's at the end of my road, I should check that out. Or I don't really care because it's across town.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's like he says, you don't want to change something that somebody's been into forever. So if we list it on the computer, and then we have a special box that we always use at the same time, they'll know what to look for, and we can educate them, and then they're off and running. But we can't just slip a fast one on them, because they'll all get up in a...
Well, for example, what I did...
Do you still keep a buggy in the shed back home, getting to and from town?
When COVID hit Stratum, what I started doing was combining the meeting agenda and the notice. So I would take all of the application materials, including the planner's review, load it as a PDF onto the website. So when somebody went and clicked on planning board agenda, it would say, meeting time, date, place, public hearings, and then the first line of the project was actually a hyperlink. You click on the hyperlink and there's all of your meeting materials. So it made it very easy. Stratum never did GoToMeeting or Zoom. We did phone conferences, but you could hear people on the phone clicking and saying, okay, well, on page 37 of the PDF, I'm talking about, whatever the application was. So that would be very simple to do here, instead of having a separate notice that goes to the paper, a separate agenda, a separate, there's more room for human error the more different versions of the same thing you have out there. So that's something I'm willing to put together even as a demo for the next meeting. Keep the standard process, put the demo together. We can run through it so the board can see what it looks like.
Great.
If we're comfortable, we'll make a change.
Yeah.
I have a feeling COVID's not going anywhere for a while, so.
Mike, did you have anything else?
No, I'm sorry, I'm done.
Okay.
I have one.
Go ahead, Vaughn.
I found helpful in the past that the planner review often cited the zoning section that is referenced in whatever the application is, and sometimes it was highlighted in certain ways so that it would draw your attention to something that may be problematic or needs discussion, so that it brings your focus down to, the good discussion to have instead of subterfuge.
Yep, perfectly willing to do that. I honestly looked at tonight's agenda and went, this is a merger, this is a reconfiguration.
Yeah.
How much do they really need? But I agree,
Yeah,
if
no.
you're going through a site plan and itemizing, then yes, I'm more than willing to do that.
So
I've even been known to take a site plan and almost section markers. A, talking about this, here's the code section. This is what we're dealing with. So, happy to do that.
we got one.
Susan, did you have anything? Susan and I are going to be meeting with you on Thursday about the master plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so, let me just check with Peter.
All right.
Peter, are you there?
Yes.
Did you have anything you wanted to add at this point?
No, with the exception of the fact that when the planner started being next to his microphone, all of a sudden there was a world of difference.
So noted. No one tell my wife there's a microphone.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I like to see big maps from the presenter, so I don't have to use my magnifying glass, because when they send those maps, that the writing is so small, you can't read it, they might as well not even give it to us.
It's true.
Would the board be, I mean, in this configuration, it's a little different. Would it be nice to have two, or, well, I guess 3 full-size at the table, or you're okay with it on the
It's nice
display
to
board?
look at it before you get to the meeting, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The ones you get in a packet, I mean, you get home and you can't,
This is no good?
Can I
well,
just
no,
make
I
a
mean,
note, though?
that's good, but one page is not good,
So that's good.
yeah.
Just keep
So-
in the back of your mind, though, I deal with this every single day. They're $6 a piece. If you make every applicant, get 6 of them, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them for each thing, just remember, that just jacks the price way up.
Our job is to evaluate it, and if we can't evaluate it, then what job are we doing?
Right, so just, what I'm saying is, sure, go ahead, ask for a couple if you want, but don't do like some towns have done and say, I want 13 full sets of your building plans.
That's why can't
It's,
we do it
it's
online?
not friendly.
Oh, okay, well, but the 11 by 17s work for you, John?
That one he just showed me,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one, yeah.
Okay.
And the font that Rob used to use, I liked a lot better than the font that Matt used, I can be honest with you.
Oh dear, John.
I could read it a lot better. Just
I like
sorry.
Palatino 14 point myself.
Okay, I don't know what it is, but I'm just,
Could we have a motion on the font, please? That would be,
Is it not possible to just put everything online and eliminate all of this paper? We go through.
well, that
every
was the
single-
next question. The other is to say, I'm happy to, if the board consents, of course, require 1 full-size plan set that can be in the office. But I understand people with day jobs don't necessarily want to, or have the ability necessarily to stop in during the day to look at a full size. I can easily request an electronic copy in PDF, but again, I've often found planning board members get very, I'll say frustrated. That's a better word than I was going to say. Frustrated by having to zoom in and out of a PDF if you're only looking at a laptop, or if you're only looking at a 19-inch monitor. Or what some planning board members do on their phone.
that's my computer. I would request
Right.
kindly a full paper copy and a full map at every meeting.
I can
Yeah.
get a full size at every meeting, yes.
That's what I would
But I
like.
also agree, I never agreed with it in Stratham. Stratham is one of the towns that requires 9 full-size copies. And after every planning board meeting that voted to approve or deny, I threw 8 of them away, and the applicant just said, wow, expensive recycling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are doing a project, so there is a pay-to-play element to a degree.
So can we have the option,
We have them both.
at least reduce the amount of paper that we go through?
Well, that's where I was headed with, would it be acceptable to the board to have 3 full-size, so at least each table could look at a full size? Prior to the meeting becomes tricky. At the meeting is easily doable. I can always have a full-size copy in the office for people to look at, or loan, for that matter. It's not going to jeopardize the record.
The great big one, the 3-foot.
When I say full-size, yeah, it's 30 by 40.
Yeah, we really hardly look at.
We don't need that.
No.
But
So
we do
11 by
look at
17
them
is
at the
sufficient?
hearing.
Okay.
Let the applicant bring in the broad.
His board and set it up, and he's usually got the laser, and he points to it, and then
Right.
sometimes they can put it up on the,
Sure.
on the thing up there, too.
Yeah,
If you can make,
Yeah.
if you have a full size, you can make available to us online or electronically. We can work, those of us who can work with that too at home.
and they bring it to the public hearing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I did okay then, because Randy said, what do I bring? And I said, bring a full size on the
There you
board.
go.
We're getting there.
Right,
Well, he's done
and
it.
he knows that.
Oh, yeah, him and Jim know it.
So
that would mean
John,
we would
some of
only
these
get a
numbers are
packet if
really
we
small,
requested
have to
one?
zoom in.
Is that what I'm hearing?
No, they already turned in the packet. Most plans, I'll just make it clear to all the applicants that any plans can't be smaller than 11 by 17. So the 11 by 17 packets will still be available. You'll have an electronic one if you want to look at it on your computer, and then a full size will come to the meeting.
Oh, so it's not cutting down on the amount of paper. Everyone's still getting the full packet.
Yeah, because we're not there yet.
Unless you don't want a full packet, you can.
I'm happy to have an opt-out list and send, if people want to say, I don't want the
Yep.
paper.
If I can access it online, I'd rather do that than all of this paper every single time. I'm sorry, it just pains me.
Well, I heat my house with it, so it's not a bother.
I'll bring mine over to you, John.
Again, I'm going to try
No,
it.
thank you.
That's illegal use of town property. I object.
Brad, do you have any thoughts?
No, nothing really. I just think it's going to be a little process for us to get used to each other. It's going to boil down to. I think Mike had a good suggestion to take a look at some of Matt's information he gave to us, especially like we said, we'll get into more of the site review. There's a lot more detail in there of what to look at. Like he might point out, the board might want to ask a question on, snow storage or on the parking requirement, because it looks like it could be, you should ask this or something like that. He'll point out those items to us and stuff in an orderly fashion down through with the ordinance numbers associated with them. So those kind of things. But no, I think overall we'll work together and we'll get used to each other, and it'll all come together quite nicely.
Julie?
I think it's just a work in progress, honestly.
Okay.
And I'm still really new, so,
Okay.
the easiest it can be is the best.
Okay, so anything else you wanted to bring up right now?
No, well, the only other thing, I am going to endeavor, whether this goes on the agenda or becomes an end of the meeting topic. If there are applications that have come in, since everyone's here, I will give you an update. Hey, something's going on with the boat museum, something's coming up.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only do it, but, the submission deadlines and the meetings line up very nicely, so it might be something I only learn, like, for example, this afternoon, but then I can give you an update right now.
No, that would be very helpful, because, we're all out and around town, and we hear about things that are happening, and so it would be good if you
Yeah,
could...
the less you guys get caught off guard in the public, the better.
Okay. All right. Anything else, folks? We have the zoning amendments at our next meeting, plus a couple applications. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded, I'm sure.
Second, yep.
Okay. Roll call, Peter Goodwin.
He already adjourned, I'd say.
Oh, okay. Okay, Susan Replier. Susan, you in
Yes.
favor of adjourning, Bond?
Oh, there's
Yes.
Peter's back.
Oh, okay. Hi, Peter. Are you in favor of adjourning?
I am. I lost my connection, so I had to get back on.
Okay. All right. Mike Carter? Yes. Okay, John
Yes.
Thurston, Fred Thurman,
Yes.
and Kathy Barnard. In favor of adjourning, and thank you very much, everyone.
Good job.